With the ever-expanding global market for machine-made goods came businesses that operated on a global scale. You've read of banks that loan money for foreign investments, and of the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company. And these were two of the world's first multinational businesses. The Dutch had developed new financial mechanisms to handle both the risk and market opportunities of their large trade networks. They created a system that spread the risk of a company, enabling businessmen to invest in the company and earn profits while not having to face the possible loss of the entirety of their investments. And this was called the limited liability system. Limited liability system. Sorry about the bell. Investors were responsible for a company's debts and losses only to the extent of which they invested in the company. So if the company were to lose everything, the investors would only lose the amount that they had invested. The limited liability system greatly decreased the risk of investment ventures, especially for overseas trade. The system greatly encouraged investment in the growth of expansion of businesses. And they also established a stock exchange, which a central bank, and the first insurance companies, which covered losses resulted from both long distance and internal trade. And this reduced the risk involved in establishing and operating business ventures. So this was completely changing the face of economics in the world. The English learned about these innovative financial instruments and gradually introduced them to England. And so these financial instruments and economic stability of Britain created an ideal situation for the buildup of capital, the creation of businesses, and eventually large-scale manufacturing. After the British acquired Hong Kong as a colony in 1842, European merchants doing business found that they needed a local bank to finance the heavy transnational trade between China and Europe. So in 1865, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Company was established, one centered in Hong Kong and the other centered in Shanghai. It was incorporated in Hong Kong by a special dispensation from the British Treasury Department. They issued its own local denomination of banknotes, and in 1874 made the first public loan in China, and afterwards handled almost all of the others. And then a new branch of the bank opened in Japan. So we're talking about multinational banking in the 1800s now. Large-scale global trade also led to the development of the U.S.-based United Fruit Company. An American, originally from a business family in New York, named Minor Keith, left his cattle ranch in Texas when his uncle offered to buy him a contract to help build a railroad in Costa Rica in 1871. It was to extend from the Costa Rican city of San Jose to the coastal port city of Limon. And as he was working on the construction of the railroad, he planted banana trees on the land beside the tracks. And when it was finally completed, the banana trees were flourishing. And he owned 3 banana companies, and the railroad conveniently offered a means to transport the bananas to Limon, where they were exported to the United States and Europe. He organized the Tropical Trading and Transport Company with the help of British banks to transport his increasing banana shipments to the U.S. It also controlled the internal banana market of Costa Rica. In 1899, he joined with Lorenzo Baker and Andrew Preston of the Boston Fruit Company and formed the United Fruit Company. This was the biggest banana company in the world. It dominated the banana trade, owned plantations in Costa Rica, Colombia, Nicaragua, Panama, Santo Domingo, Cuba, and Jamaica. It also owned a fleet of steamships called the Great White Fleet, as well as more than 100 miles of railroad track that connected the plantations to port cities. So these are huge businesses growing very, very, very quickly. So how did we do this? Well, the exchange of goods and money among the industrialized economies grew so fast that they established a gold standard for world currencies. And this was an agreed upon international price of gold that became the measure by which nations determined the relative value of their money systems. And these countries that were doing so great, or these businesses that were doing so great, owe their success and origin to Adam Smith and the idea of laissez-faire economics, because the government was not getting involved in regulating wages. They weren't regulating taxes or anything. They were allowing these companies to grow and merge and create monopolies and do whatever they wanted to do, basically.